The moment her hand touched mine, I felt something shift, something dangerous, something unforgettable. She smiled and said, "Will you dance with me?" I said yes, not knowing that by the end of that night, I'd be standing face to face with the one truth that could ruin everything. The wedding was louder than I expected: music, laughter, glasses clinking, people celebrating love like it was something permanent. I didn't really belong there. I was just a last-minute guest, invited by a friend who couldn't even stay long enough to introduce me properly. So there I stood, near the edge of the hall, watching strangers live out a perfect moment. That's when I noticed her. She wasn't the bride, but somehow, she carried more grace than anyone in the room. Her sari shimmered softly under the lights, her smile calm yet distant, as if she had lived 100 lives before this one. There was something in her eyes, not sadness, but depth. The kind that pulls you in without asking permission. I tried not to stare. I failed. A few minutes later, she walked toward me. Out of all the people in that crowded hall, she came straight to me. "Why are you standing alone?" she asked, her voice warm but curious. I shrugged. "I could ask you the same." She smiled slightly, like she appreciated the honesty. "Maybe I'm waiting for the right person to ask me to dance." I laughed softly. "Or maybe you're the one who should be asking." There was a brief pause. Then she extended her hand. "Then I will. Will you dance with me?" I don't know what made me say yes so quickly. Maybe it was her confidence. Maybe it was the way her eyes held mine, like she already knew my answer. As we stepped onto the dance floor, the music slowed. The lights dimmed. And for a moment, the world outside us disappeared. Her hand in mine felt right. We moved slowly, almost naturally, like we had done this before. She didn't speak much, but she didn't need to. There was a quiet understanding between us, a strange connection that felt too real for two strangers. "You dance well," she said. "So do you," I replied. "Feels like you've had practice." She chuckled softly. "Life teaches you many things." There was something hidden behind her words, but I didn't push. I didn't want to break whatever this was. The song ended too soon. But neither of us stepped away. Instead, we kept talking. About small things at first: music, food, random stories. Then deeper things: regrets, second chances, the idea of starting over. "You ever feel like life gives you a second chance when you least expect it?" she asked. "All the time," I said. "But I usually don't recognize it until it's gone." She looked at me then, really looked at me. Maybe this is one of those moments. My heart skipped. For a second, I forgot where we were. Forgot that this was a wedding. Forgot that there were rules, expectations, boundaries. All I saw was her. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something real. But just as I thought I had found something beautiful, someone called her name from across the hall, and in that moment, everything I thought I knew about her shattered. Chapter 2. "Amy." The voice cut through the noise like a blade. I turned instinctively, and saw the groom rushing toward us. Smiling. Excited. Proud. He reached her first, wrapping his arms around her with a kind of love that could only mean one thing. My chest tightened. "Amy, everyone's been looking for you," he said, laughing. Then he noticed me. "Oh, I see you've already made a friend." I froze. "Amy. Mother." The word echoed in my head, over and over again. I looked at her, hoping, praying, that I had misunderstood. But she didn't deny it. Instead, she met my eyes, and gave me a small, knowing smile. The groom paused, waiting for her to introduce me. She spoke gently, a kind stranger who agreed to dance with me. Kind stranger. That's all I was now. I forced a smile, shook his hand, said something polite, I don't even remember what. My mind was too busy collapsing under the weight of realization. She wasn't just any woman. She was the groom's mother. The center of this entire celebration. And I had been dancing with her like she was mine to hold. I stepped back, suddenly aware of everything, the eyes, the expectations, the invisible lines I had unknowingly crossed. I should go, I said quietly. She didn't stop me. But as I turned away, she spoke, soft, almost fragile. Will you leave just like that? I hesitated. Then turned back. There was no embarrassment in her eyes. No regret. Only honesty. I didn't tell you because, for a moment, I didn't want to be anyone's mother, she said. I just wanted to be me. Her words hit harder than anything else that night. I understand, I replied. But things are complicated. Life is always complicated, she said. That doesn't mean we stop living. I looked around, the celebration, the laughter, the life happening all at once. Then back at her. Do you regret it? I asked. She shook her head. Not even for a second. Something inside me shifted again. This wasn't wrong. This was real. Maybe unexpected. Maybe unconventional. But real. I took a step closer. Then don't let this be just a moment, I said. Her eyes softened. Are you sure you're ready for what that means? She asked. I smiled faintly. I think life just gave me a second chance, and this time, I recognize it. The music started again. Not loud. Not overwhelming. Just enough. I extended my hand. She looked at it, then at me. And slowly, she took it. This time, there were no secrets. No misunderstandings. Just two people choosing to live honestly, despite the world around them. As we danced again, I realized something important. Love doesn't always come in the way we expect. Sometimes, it walks into your life quietly, asks you for a dance, and changes everything. And if you're brave enough to say yes, it might just become the most beautiful story you've ever lived. Hook. But just as I thought I had found something rare and beautiful, one single word from across the hall shattered everything I believed about her, and forced me to choose between walking away, or risking everything for a love that made no sense. The word came again, louder this time. Amy. I turned, and this time there was no confusion. The groom himself was walking toward us, smiling widely, his eyes full of pride and affection. He reached her in seconds, placing his hand gently on her shoulder like she was the most important person in the room. And maybe, she was. Where did you disappear? He laughed. Everyone's asking for you. I felt my chest tighten. She smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen before, softer, deeper, maternal. Then his eyes shifted to me. And you are? He asked politely. For a second, I couldn't speak. Before I could even find the words, she answered. A friend, she said calmly. He was kind enough to dance with me. A friend. The word felt heavier than it should have. I forced a small smile, shook his hand, said something respectful, but inside, everything had already started falling apart. I stepped back, trying to create distance, trying to fix the invisible line I had crossed without knowing. But as I turned to leave, her voice stopped me. You're going? She asked quietly. There was something in her tone, not pleading, not weak, just real. I turned back slowly. This isn't simple, I said. I didn't know who you were. And if you did? She asked. I didn't answer. Because the truth was, I still didn't know what difference it should make. She took a step closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear. Tonight, for a few minutes. I wasn't someone's mother, someone's responsibility, someone people look at with expectations, she said. I was just a woman, who wanted to feel alive again. Her words stayed in the air between us. Honest. Unfiltered. Dangerous. I looked at her differently now, not as a stranger, not even as the groom's mother, but as someone who had been hiding behind roles for too long. Do you feel guilty? I asked softly. She shook her head. No, she said. Do you? I hesitated. Because I should have. But I didn't. I don't, I admitted. The music in the hall shifted again, slower this time. Couples began to return to the dance floor, lost in their own worlds. But we stood still. Caught between what was right, and what felt right. You should go back, I said finally. They need you. She smiled faintly. And what about what I need? That question. I had no answer for. Or maybe I did, but I was afraid to say it. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to think clearly, but nothing about this felt logical anymore. You don't even know me, I said. I know enough, she replied. You didn't look at me the way others do. You saw me. That hit deeper than I expected. Because it was true. I don't want to be a mistake, I said. Her expression softened. Then don't make this one, she replied gently. Silence. Heavy. Meaningful. Final. Somewhere behind us, people were laughing, celebrating a new beginning. And here we were, standing on the edge of one we never planned. I took a slow breath. Then stepped closer. Then let's not pretend this didn't happen, I said. Her eyes searched mine, as if making sure I understood the weight of what I was saying. This won't be easy, she warned. I know, I said. People would talk. They would judge. They would question everything. But for once, that didn't feel like the most important thing. What matters is, was it real? I asked. She didn't hesitate. Yes. That was enough. I extended my hand again. Not out of impulse this time, but choice. She looked at it, then at me, and slowly placed her hand in mine. We didn't rush to the center of the floor. We didn't care who was watching. We just stood there for a second, holding on to something fragile, something unexpected, something real. And then we danced. Not like strangers anymore. Not like a secret. But like two people who had decided, despite timing, despite roles, despite the world, that sometimes, life gives you a moment that doesn't follow rules. And if you're brave enough to hold on to it, it might just change everything.